everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's talk was on the 23rd of April, 2023, and I am hoping that you guys will have really some good things to listen to and to think about after today's discussion. We're going to call this In the Beginning. And what it is based off of is questions that we've been asked regarding some of the events and different things that are taking people by surprise, be it in society in general. How did it get like this? How did it get this far? How did these types of things happen? And it relates to, I guess we would say, the concept of how domination, control, others' agendas slowly innervate into your lives one way or another. We could be talking into your psyche. We actually could be talking even the takeover of a body. But in general, how do these things actually occur? And what are the potential warning signs about that? So we wanted to first start with an example that talks more about the general psyche, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, being a lifting show, we want to do an affirmation and blessing. And so as we've been deciding to do, we will do the law of one. Mm-hmm. We are all one. And when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. I pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let the healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, let them bring you to your highest good. I pray for myself, for Chris, our friends, our families, to let those healing energies in. Let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. I sent out a request that all benevolence who support this conversation today with no conflicting agendas to make themselves be known. Let you feel them even around you and comfort you as we have this discussion so that we can all grow further within our abilities to discern and to understand the world around us better. I ask for soul family members to please those with no conflicting agenda to make themselves be known. I ask for, again, for any other benevolent races that understand and approve and have no conflicting agenda to this conversation to please make themselves be known. Let them help sweep away anything that is trying to interfere with this conversation. And I hope you all agree. I hope you agree to accept healing energies that are within you for your highest good. I hope you agree to have this conversation in a way that you can actually hear and perceive what's being said so that you may grow. And so to that end, if you agree within yourself or out loud, please say, so be it. So an interesting thing happened not too long ago, again, in this discussion of how does it all happen? What's really going on? And one of the things that we've really tried to relate is, again, how intelligent and how good this other side that wishes to manipulate, to dominate, control, confuse, use your energies to do their bidding because they wouldn't have enough on their own, honestly. So how does basically all that occur? And we've always said that it occurs over time. We've always given examples, be it in a current day, present moment conversation, or even in a galactic history conversation, that techniques have been used over and over and over again. And that a lot of times it's a very slow process that starts, with a thought that then is kind of changed or moved. So we're going to add a little bit to that conversation, because really what we're talking about is really good, decent people. So in general, how do you take a very good, decent person, okay? And then how do you slowly, right, start to change them in a way that allows this other agenda to kind of scoot by them. And by the time they realize what has happened, laws have been changed, things have been changed, everything around them is all different. What happened? And so we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to start with an example, and then I'm going to expand upon it about how this example is used. And you're probably going to be able to relate it to some very pressing current present moment issues that we find ourselves within. So again, I have no malevolence, no judgment, no anything. And I am going to read you something, but again, how it got posted, who said it, that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about something simple that begins, and then how does it get contorted over time? And so that's what we're talking about, to see the earliest. So again, part of it is going to be always about you taking serious your own personal discernment of the basics. What is good for society? What isn't? Is this going to allow for a diversion in a conversation where I have to listen for a line in the sand to draw? Things like that. So this is a post that actually came through. And again, I'm going to read it. The first thing, even before I read it, is I guarantee you that when these forces start to try and pervert something, they're not trying to pervert something that was actually out there that was bad. They're taking something that's got some truth to it, and then they're going to take the story and try to change it in a way that benefits them. So let me read this to you. And again, this is a post. If only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? This is a great example of the beginnings of a potential manipulation. So again, what is the truth? Okay. The line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. That actually is a true statement, because as we've said, we are all everything, all of the emotions. And I would love to say all of our emotions were benevolent, right? But if somebody was really doing me wrong, or a work colleague or whatever, and you have a moment in your head when you're like, boy, I'd like to meet them in a back corner and only one of us would come out alive, and or I wish the bus would hit them on the way home, and you have a momentary thought of that because you are having a normal human frustration, are you evil? Now, some people will think that those thoughts are evil. We try to say they're normal. So what is actually then evil? Acting upon it. And so what you're dealing with is everybody has these thoughts that run through their head. If someone only had happy, joy thoughts and they never, ever, I would worry about them, because again, that's not really a part of a balanced life. Balanced life has all of the emotions and all of those thoughts in them. But where you are is how you act to other people, how you act in public, how you act and do these things with the whole range of emotion that is going through your head. So does that make you evil? No, it makes you normal. Why in the world, again, you have someone, well, you wouldn't cut out half your heart. You're damn straight I wouldn't cut out half my heart. But it's normal to have these thoughts. So now you also have a statement in there that somehow says you must be evil with you having your heart, and you would have to cut half your heart out. No. What it means is that you may have a thought or two, but you don't act upon it. And that's what most of society does. Good, decent people. They have moments of these thoughts that is perfectly normal. Okay, but they don't act upon them. Okay, and that's one part I want to make straight. So I want you to understand those two statements that went into that line that somehow said, oh, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? Which is really what it's alluding to, because you're just as bad with evil in you as anyone else, right? And I say, wrong.
And also, there a long time ago, there was this episode of Twilight Zone that was on. That's actually a perfect example of this, where there was this guy who flipped a coin and it lands on its edge, and all of a sudden, because of this, some kind of weird cosmic alignment, he's able to hear people's thoughts for that time, like clearly, sharply. And he works in a bank, and there was an older man there that in his thoughts he was thinking, well, how he could rob the bank. First thing the guy does is like, oh my God, this guy's going to rob the bank. Turns out the guy thought that every morning when he sat down at his desk just before retirement. He was never going to act on it. And he tells the guy at the end, he goes, funny thing, I think that all the time. Doesn't mean I'd do it. He believed the guy could hear what he was thinking, but it turned out he was never ever going to act on it. There are plenty of these types of situations, that are taught about, sorry to the New Age community. I gotta say something here. That community has been notorious for wanting to separate all the negative emotions away from people and considering it an evil, like an evil cancer that has to be extricated from somebody. Wrong. It has to be balanced. The new way of doing this is to do the proper shadow work and reintegrate things where they need to be. But just know and honoring thoughts that are out there. You can't force neutrality in your own thoughts. You cannot basically castrate your own ways of thinking. You have to be who you are. There was also years ago, now I know this is an old reference, this dates me as well, where it was an episode of Xena that was on one time where the two people, Xena and her partner, Gabrielle, where Gabrielle was trying to be more of a pacifist, trying to be nonviolent, like a friend of hers taught her to be. But at the same time, she needed to also defend herself. Her friend basically comes up to her and says, "Hey, this was my way of doing things. Doesn't mean I was basically giving you an edict to act this way, to be this way. You be who you are, or else you're dishonoring yourself as well. I am the one that does not want to utilize violence in any form. It doesn't mean you can't use it in your own way, sort of thing, as a defense mechanism, or however you need to fight, or what you need to fight for, sort of thing." And also, there's also a quote by Krishna that came up at one point, and that showed it's like it's better to die defending your way than to live in someone else's way. And that one I completely agree to too, because say if you're taught a certain belief system, let's say indoctrinated belief system, but it's contradictory to who you actually are, you're actually living in someone else's house and not living in your own. Like an example I always use is the woman who invited over her ex-husband and basically said her intuition was telling her not to do it, but she said the Christian side of her was saying she must do it. That ended up that the cops had to haul him away that night, and then she was all sorts of messed up. She got hit, beat up, all this other stuff. The intuition was supposed to take supreme control at that point, and not the belief system. The reason I bring this up is the fact that these are things that are incorporated into our ways of thinking that contradict how someone naturally is, and you have to extricate that. And also trying to separate any other thoughts from you from any of the so-called evil thoughts, to sexual, to all this. All the religions are really good at trying to either castrate somebody or lobotomize somebody. So you have to basically be in a form of balance and know that there are things you're going to think and say that you would never do.
So what's important as far as carrying on this conversation, and again, I'm just gonna read the last two lines again. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? Remember, that's kind of what we're talking about. Is there a truth there? Yes, there's a truth, but this person has already put out an edict saying that, if you've got an evil thought in your head, then you are living in a glass house and shouldn't throw stones. Okay. But again, the truth of the matter in this conversation has more to do with everyone. Good, decent people have thoughts that they do not act upon. And also within a society, there are what are considered, society gets together and they decide social norms, normally based around what people feel truly are a good way versus an evil way. And again, what falls under evil? It's not going to be the thought, what's in your head. It's going to be what you do.
And also, this is part of the Orion agenda where they wanted to divide somebody within themselves. So they thought even their own thoughts were
right.
Right.
That part of that is about that agenda. But when we talk about acting, what are we talking about? There are things that, having a sociopath hanging around who's trying to kill everybody, not so good in society. They got a lot of evil thoughts that they're acting upon. Okay. The next one happens to be pedophiles and those types of sociopaths who prey on young children. These things, again, they're not just thinking about it, they're acting upon it. Okay. Along with rapists. Right. So society is saying, not so cool. We actually don't want this type of behavior to be accepted as being okay in society.
But also on the flip side of the coin, the Cabal and Luciferian garbage and the Orions want people to get used to and be able to accept and become in acceptance of certain types of behaviors because they know over time people can become used to any state of being. So on the flip side of that, there's certain things that are being presented politically and societally right now.
Right, because those are the people I'm talking about that are doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're putting these thoughts for you to question, am I a good person? Let me tell you something. They're not questioning within themselves that they're a good person. They're just saying, am I going to be able to get them and manipulate them? Because the truth of the matter is some of this deviant, evil behavior amongst some of these people, they're tired of it not being accepted by society. They want it to be freely a part of society. They want some of these things to be within the norm so they can, let's just say, walk in the sunlight. And you have to understand that this is actually going on. It's been going on a long time. Now that agenda is really being pushed out right now. And again, it all begins with a simple comment like this, because decent people will always sit back because they want to honor and respect people, will always question themselves to try and get better. These other people, they are not questioning. They know what their motives are, and their motives are to manipulate you to allow certain things that society does not normally want to now allow it as if it is an accepted part of social norm.
Just like when that NAMBLA group came out, that Man-Boy Love Association bullcrap that came out back in the 90s and later on early 2000s. That's a beautiful example of when they tried to slow drip it and go, oh, here we go. Here's another group that this is their freedom to do this sort of thing. Not that I'm dumping on the proper freedoms. This is unacceptable yet. Here we go. There's also some celebrities that came to light. I won't mention any names that were trying to bring into the norms the Kabbalist way of like cannibalism, for instance. I found out into reading into certain things that certain celebrities and such had brought this out, also hurting children, brought this out. but it was considered to be a norm. They had been around it since they were children. They had been groomed towards this. So this is the not only basically Nazi German or Martian German way of doing things, but the Luciferian Kabbalist way of doing things, Satanist Kabbalist, and they will bring this out in the open to gauge a litmus test humanity to see what they allow in, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little
Right,
more.
until it's too far gone.
Mhm.
And so again, and if you talk to them about it, you talk about morals or whatever, they'll just say, well, your level of morals is not the same as my level of morals. And maybe you need to think about that. That
And they'll
maybe
project it back
your-
on you, yeah.
and famous for projection. Projection is, and they will blame you when they're telling you absolutely everything. If you don't know-
Narcissists do that,
if
yeah.
you do not know what projection means, you need to look it up. You need to understand it because it is going on like crazy right now, where you're being told that they are describing themselves to a T, and then they are pushing that onto somebody else saying, but they're the ones doing it. And they're not, it's them. It's called projection. It's another tool out of the arsenal that is brought up to try and push an agenda. And then what happens to good, decent people is that they will listen and they will think about this and they will wonder. And then what will happen is that good, decent people will stay silent because now they are questioning their own, well, do I live in a glass house and I shouldn't be throwing stones? They'll go there while that agenda is still being pushed through. So again, evil makes its way in when good people do nothing. And when good people do nothing is when they mind warp you, basically, to start looking at yourself over and over and over again when there was nothing wrong with you to begin with. They're good at it. It is a part of the scripting. It is what is done over and over and over again. You should be seeing this now on television and on things that you watch and what you're being exposed to, that what we're talking about, but it starts simple. This is what I've got to say. This is not something that is done to a person, wham, bam, in one night, something. No, this is something that is done to everyone. And again, that whole thing that you must not like yourself to have allowed that in, bullshit. They know what they're doing. They can manipulate everybody. And if you think that you are beyond being manipulated by some of this, you're probably the first one that's already been manipulated. And it really is that way. So you must check yourself. But if you are questioning any of this, the bottom line is, let me ask you, is this the society you want to live in? Is this the world now that you want to take hold? Is this what you want? Because it will happen if good people don't say anything.
Don't keep this in check. Yeah.
Right. Don't keep this in check. It isn't that hard. You are not crazy.
But also sometimes people get into the religious mindset that certain things have to be kept in check according to an indoctrinated belief. That is also a false litmus test or a false baseline that also must be audited as well. Or I've seen this time and time again where people, when they discover some of the stuff maybe that we discovered that was some of the certain beliefs were a lie, they always seem to revert back to an older form of indoctrination like Christianity, like the worship of Jesus, things of that nature. I've noticed this time and again. Don't use that. Don't back up to an earlier false foundation. Free yourself of all of those constraints and just go with what you feel in the moment in time. Go with your intuition. This is actually quite important so that you don't fall into old patterns, or old ways of being, older versions of yourself, because the bad guys want to pull you back onto an older version of yourself in your own timeline. I've seen that where they try to ground you outside the moment, or they towards the future they try to carrot and stick you further and further ahead, so you just keep going grab, 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 grab. They do this in the thoughts a lot. You've heard us talk about narratives. I don't need to repeat that, but you know what I am actually stating. With something like this phrase she was reading, it is very important to see the seeds of evil intermixed with the things that were generally considered good. Just like you've heard us talk about warnings and yields. This is a yield. if I've ever seen one.
And then again, I am not saying the intention of whomever put this up had any bad intent. I'm
No,
not saying that
not
at
at all.
all. Because it's never starts that way.
Never starts
It
that
never
way.
starts that way. What I am putting up the red flag warning on is this is an example of how it begins. And if you aren't paying attention, they're going to have you self-looking at yourself all the time and questioning and not saying a word because you are too busy questioning yourself, that you then don't participate in saying no.
So that you
So
always
you-
think that it's you.
Well, that is the goal, the projection back, that it must be you, that it must be you, that it must be
Sometimes
you.
the shadow work is correct, but other times it's overage and they're trying to
Well,
project that on
again,
you. Yeah.
they take everything good and pervert it. So
Mhm.
everything gets perverted. The word shadow work now gets perverted.
Oh yeah, this gets
back.
perverted just like the whole controversy besides the around critical race theory. What that is actually based upon is where they're trying to guilt another race for what the ancestry did. Further back than that, it's based on what we call the viruses in the DNA or getting rid of ancestral traits. You see how they bastardize one good thing people are supposed to be doing within the self, and then they're projecting it onto another whole race of people. Oh, your ancestors did this. You see how that projection works that way? Yeah.
Of your personal discernment will tell you that what is being said or pushed isn't good, but they will have a piece of truth that they shove down your throat as their justification to project that back onto you for you to reflect so that they can bulldoze this over. This tactic has been used over and over and over again in all kinds of arenas that are out there right now. This is just one example, but it's being done and it's really hitting a mass peak here because it's being done in every area of your life. That again, now they're bombarding you with all of it in your face at once, figuring that they're going to wear you down and you're going to do this and this and this, and they will ram that agenda right past you, and it will be a part of a society that you probably don't want to be in because you did nothing. Now, I will say the one thing about society as a whole is the only thing constant is change. Now, again, they want to change to go this certain way for them. But what I'm trying to say, even this, when people say that, you know, it's gone too far, they already changed the laws, they already did this, they already back. And I'm like, as if a law can't be changed back. The reason I say that, I happen to live in Europe where I saw, it was the most interesting thing that I saw. The political parties would argue, and if one came in and they did whatever, I swear to God, it was kind of funny. The next party would come in and they would undo all the laws that they just did. So laws are things that can be changed. Bad things that are happening based on bad legislation, based on bad whatever, can be changed. So don't put in your mind that somehow it ended up on a tablet with Moses somewhere, that now this is the only way it can be. That's a ruse as well, to make you to believe there is no, let's say, turning back. You're right. You can't turn back the clock, and why would you?
And it's
Because
not
they
set
had,
in stone like the.
but it's not set in stone in general, in a sense that you can look upon things, as many people should. They should be becoming educated in these things to understand in the beginning, this is how it all went wrong, and this is what they did, so that you can start, we can start as a society untangling all of those things that were put into place and put within society the things that actually the group feels is beneficial for all and not just a few. So you actually have not a ton, you actually have a minute, compared to the population as a whole, group of people that are pushing an agenda through. They're not representative of the mass of the peoples. They just want the people's energy to force their agenda in. They know all of the psychological tricks to do it, okay? And they pursue what they're doing, and they do it over this sense of timing and time. And I'm not going to, don't want to use the word grooming, but that's what they do. They prune a garden. They go in there and they set these things into play, but the same tactics are used over and over and over again. Why? Because they work. So we have to become wise to when they are trying to set a seed plant a seed in the garden, that really should be pretty much pulled out and killed, or the first sign of it, it needs to be pulled up and say no, because again, the vast majority of people don't agree. They don't. I think a lot of you are starting, but boy, were they able to keep you separated and not talking to one another about it. So you got to feel like you were the only one that didn't agree and everybody else agrees. That is so not true. They're going to put on all of their few people up on stage to make you think the whole world agrees when it really is just a small amount. And the rest of the people, they have too afraid to talk to one another to realize it is not true at all. So, that's another tactic that is used. So I hope with this part of the conversation that we have truly given you something to think about. Understanding these dynamics, understanding the way this manipulation occurs, understanding how the seed starts. You then, if you can understand it, then you trust your discernment and you be aware and you have your eyes open. So when you can, without a doubt, even if it's from your home, say no and mean it with all the force. Society is not going in that direction. No, I will not fight a war so that you can earn big bucks. No, my children are not going to go there and die. No, we are not going to participate. No, this is not going to happen. The society is not going to collapse. No, people are not going to lose every ounce of their money, hard-earned money. If everyone puts up those types of energies to some of these agendas, they die on the vine. You must understand how these things work, but they are masters at confusing you. They are masters at all of this to get you to, at least in the minimal, do nothing, because nothing, even not knowing whether to say yes or no, is actually considered consent. So you must understand these concepts and how they work. The next thing, and I'll let you find them, but the next part that we said we would talk about is the subtleties of and how long it actually takes and what is done. If there's going to be something even, more horrible done to a soul, which is to potentially take over. Sometimes we talk about possessions. So some of you may say possessions. Sometimes it actually is, if you can visualize a soul being crammed into their big toe while something else has now taken over. Again, a possession, but something even more. Sometimes it's a full in and out exchange of souls. Okay. And so again, having that conversation, I don't know if you have final thoughts on this one, but having that conversation so that, again, you understand, again, the psychology and what is done to prepare and what they put somebody through to prepare them. It's like unloosening their soul from their body. So either going to be ripped out, shoved in their toe, whatever, and something else put into its place. And so people were asking us that as well, and we'll talk about that. But any final thoughts?
No. Well, another thing that before we go into that is what they're also trying to make societal norms is, even though it's a minority, this goes into the trans talk, whereas they're trying to basically groom children early or trying to blur the lines, not only between genders, but also trying to confuse people early so that they're not grounded in their I am presence. That's where the whole they them comes from. That's also another societal norm that you're seeing weeded in. Doesn't mean that I'm being a bigot against the LGBTQ. There's real LGBTQ, and then there's this weaponized crap. I want you to distinct between the two sides here. I went into a greater detailed in another recording me and Bjorn did at one point, where I added in where there's the weaponized versions of these, and then you have the natural versions of these. I just wanted to make sure that people understood there was a difference so that there's no point of contention. Now, in society, you also have people that this is going to, people will find this familiar, but they're not going to understand the logistics behind this. You have and I'm going to say this even though this is a YouTube show. We may even have to put this on Rumble for what I'm about to say. Not that the other thing didn't, but this uh, is about not only the 5G controversy, but the vaccine one as well, where you have this is many people think this is this also a misnomer. People seem to think that there wasn't mind control in before they put the nano garbage and the gravine in the vaccines so that the 5G could connect. Wrong. It was mind control to get everyone to fall into lockstep with the COVID agenda in 2020. Before that, it was still in the mind control was in place since 1964. Long before that, hundreds of thousands of years with the moon and with Saturn. So that many people know, of course, about the soul trap stuff. I'm not going to go into that. What I'm trying to say is, in society, you have people that are replaced. You have people that have their souls loosened by these vaccines, which I have seen where soul is locked into the genetic memory. You get something like that gravine garbage into them, and it starts to jar it loose just a little more and just a little more, and can be pulled out, and you can have a soulless being or somebody that's more manipulatable. The mind control can stick better with it. But you also had COVID out there that was also a nanovirus. So the Orions put a virus out there. They also came across as with the cure, just like a fireman being an arsonist. And they've done this on other planets over in galactic history as well. I came to find out many times over. They've tried this exact thing, and they got humans again to get used to the idea of committing these actions. But for people that are being replaced or ready to be replaced, I have seen this on several occasions. You saw some things on the East Coast before we even left that somebody were around, you could tell, left from the workplace, came back, and had been replaced. And this person was a synth. Synths are not as common as people think. They make it, the attitude surrounding it, they make it an accurate depiction in Fallout 4 where people feel that their relative has been replaced by a synthetic, or somebody in their community has, and it's a real reasonable fear in that universe. This actually happens in some communities, mostly world leaders, whereas the real person is taken somewhere. There is a soul, or the soul of that person is put into a synth body, or sometimes the synth is a robot, by the way, or an android. Put in, or the soul's transferred, and that is a very programmable form. Some of your politicians and world leaders of this, I'm not going to go into more name dropping, but you understand what I'm saying. Then you have some people that are being manicured and prepared to be a synthetic, or have their soul shaken loose, replaced, or have some kind of dark walk-in in there. You've heard of the concept of a walk-in. Now, invert that concept for a minute, because it's considered to be completely benevolent. And this is where I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Because for one, if a being is coming through you without your permission, even in a moment of crisis, did you ask that to do that? If you asked for benevolence to help and that happened, great. But it doesn't mean your soul interchanges out. It means another being has taken its place, and your brain is now sharing the space with that being. Now, with the dark walk-in process, the gravine can also slowly but surely switch your consciousness out for another. And if many people have also asked me, isn't gravine related to Shungite? Yes, it is, but it's its retarded younger cousin. So just to put that out there, Shungite, the earth generated to defeat the black goo. Gravine is a powderized version of the black goo. So that many people have asked me that part. So this part where somebody is being manicured to be replaced, you see certain behaviors start. The behaviors are starting to change either erratically or passively, where they're allowing a little bit more, and then the harvester groups come in, pull that soul out. The person either dies, goes into a soul trap, or they're replaced by a synthetic, which is a living robot, or they are their soul is taken out and another one is put in that form. You see this happening all over that particular one, all over the planet, where you have a different soul put into a body of a world leader, a religious leader. They pull some stupid shenanigans or something like that, or they're mind controlled to do it. Case in point, the Dalai Lama. You saw that happening with the mind control. with the thing with his tongue. That was one of the grossest things I've seen in a long time. You have seen that. And that was also to get people away from parts of a belief system, or throw the baby out with the bathwater of a belief system, parts of which were actually working towards bringing in positive energies. But that's where they're trying to get people to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But when somebody is being taken over and their soul is slowly being rewritten, or their genetic memory is being rewritten, say if you have a being that's come in on the microbial level, these genes on a certain harmonic level, think torsion field and frequency for a minute. Like if you've had somebody that's taken the vaccine, this being that now gravitates towards that energy or that vibration can slowly fill the space and transmute, convert, or push out the other soul that was there. It can be done very gradually, very slowly over a period of time. And then you won't recognize that person anymore. And it doesn't mean that if you're seeing somebody change in the positive, it doesn't mean that they're suddenly evil. It just means you're not growing and you're seeing somebody else change for the better. Some people have mistaken these two things, where like if you're getting into a higher or what is a faster moving vibration, others might that aren't changing might see you as bad. That's different. This is where one consciousness is supplanted for another. And it's done slowly over a period of time. Orions like to pull this particular technique where it's done very, very slowly. It's there's a great example of this in a movie called Star Trek First Contact, where the Borg Queen wants to assimilate Earth. Well, it's not just in First Contact, but in Star Trek Voyager is mainly when this one other idea was said, where the Borg Queen, since she couldn't go through time and assimilate in Star Trek First Contact, what she did was she did this slow assimilation over a period of time, slow drip over a couple of decades. She said by the time they know they're being assimilated, it will be too late. And this is essentially what goes on with some replaceal or assimilation of they want somebody into lockstep. They will slowly and gradually pick apart different personality traits one by one. They'll pull each thread out of that tapestry very slow. And by the time anybody notices, you know, how many threads have been pulled out? Can you count how many jelly beans are in a jar when you see the jar there? No, think of that. That's how many of those threads have been pulled by the time you notice it.
And I just want to interject one thing to go back to, I know you brought up the example of people, and many people that are hearing this probably have witnessed the clip that is validated as being true regarding an incident with the boy and the Dalai Lama.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to tell you now, again, relating back, and I know you're saying to throw the baby out with the bathwater comment, but what I want to also say is it's used for all kinds of things, because what will good, decent people do? Many good, decent people with something like that, and you hear that, your mind is going to be, that cannot be what it appears to be. It cannot be what it appears to be.
Because you don't want it to be.
Because of course, decent people don't want that, don't want to think that. So
That means
I even heard somebody say on TV, say this about talking about that clip. Well, it must be some part of a ritual. Can you tell me
Name
what part
one.
of any
Name
ritual
one.
that should be okay?
Name one, and
Right?
maybe that ritual would need to go away if that were
But
true.
this is my point. It's like trying to rationalize something that obviously you know isn't cool. You know it with every fiber of your being, but you so don't want to believe it that you're going to rationalize it by saying it must be something that I'm not seeing, number one. It must be some ritual. And then now you're going to accept a ritual where this is done as being okay. It's not okay. It's as simple as you didn't get any of it wrong. You didn't. Your discernment was correct.
You just don't want it to be true.
You just don't want it to be true. That, again, is a great example of what we're saying, how the mind warping is. You know it's not good. You know you don't want to, but somehow seeds are planted because you don't want to believe that this could be a part of the society that we live in, that these individuals doing these things exist and they are in positions of authority and power, but they are. So if the first thing we would say to you is you're going to have to accept a truth that you don't want to, accept, which right now, personally, is being shoved into everybody's
And I
face.
could actually see, and I looked at that clip. There's some things you can't unsee, but this is one of them. But you could tell that there was a different person or a different soul, I will say loosely, in the body of the Dalai Lama. You could actually see that there was either someone different there, or there was a form of capping or form of command that was being placed there. I couldn't tell which one, whether it was a full-on replacement or if it was just mind control. I'm electing to the prior on that one. Granted, one could say that that's because I don't want that to be true. There could have always been a bad person there for all I know. But you see this with some of the world leaders out there. You see it with some of the politicians on TV. You see this interchange of these of the not only control, but you see where sometimes synths are in place. If you see what I call dead eyes, look for the dead eyes. If you see nothing, no light there, that is usually a synth, or it's somebody that's had the part of their brain that involves empathy shut off. Which also you can say the eyes are the windows to the soul. That's why in this part of the brain that's up front is part that deals with empathy. That's right behind here. If those bulbs are turned off, you're going to see dead eyes. And sometimes it means no soul. There are soulless beings, but they're usually extremely psychotic or psychopathic. And that can happen. That's the organism by itself. Sometimes they're vampiric, which that's the vampire virus. Not going into that would take too long to explain. But this particular incident, you can tell something is up. That even by looking at it, whether you know the logistics, like I've looked into, or not, is irrelevant. Your intuition should tell you something is wrong. Even just even by the mere action by itself, you should already see that something is wrong with this. And then that reporter basically saying it had been part of a ritual. That's just somebody that's in denial right there.
Or questioning was it?
Or questioning.
Questioning was it? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I bet you're real interested in seeing that kind of ritual. No, the answer is no. So a lot of this, again, not to scare people, but this really is a part of the existence we're in. What does that mean for you? What that means is awareness. What that means is to bring these things in and to dust off your discernment so that you can be aware, because in general, it's about the agenda that's trying to be rammed through with distracting you, with doing whatever, with you thinking that a law can never be changed back, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's permanent. It never can
They
be
want you to
redone.
think that it's like set in stone when you can reverse
Right,
that.
when things
And audit it and reset it, yeah.
Correct. And so all of these tactics are used to get you to give up and to at a minimum, nothing from you, because that will be for them implied consent. And you have to understand that.
What I find is interesting, one, I'll use another Xena Hercules reference whereas you see this king running the character of Iolaus through a series of tests where per their laws, strict laws, he was caught violating a law, which he hadn't done, but they were still running him through these tests. And he went through this one test at the end where he had to survive this like animal that was in a pit or something like that. Climbs out of the pit, and he wasn't supposed to get scratched, bleed, or anything, and he would have passed the test. He climbs out of the pit and punctures his finger on a nail. And the king goes, "Oh no, you failed." And then the daughters go, "No, we can rewrite these laws. They were archaic. They belong in the past for a reason. We can fix this." The other part of this, which I find interesting, and I found this out very recently, if people watched our Tartarian material on Galactic Interstellar Council, this goes back to the Dalai Lama. All the lines of the Lama goes back to a refined set of genetics the Tartarian people were talking about, where they had to refine, they had to save their culture by people that had a certain encoding, decoding capability and retaining certain genetic memory and knowledge of their entire society, so they didn't lose all of it.
In hopes that there would be a lifting later, because these people were going to fall.
Yeah, and they knew it. But this thing, I found out that's where from the Buddha to the Dalai Lama thing actually stems from. is that same story. I didn't come to realize it till I looked into more of the story of the llamas. I'm thinking, this is Tartaria they're talking about right here. If you want more information on that, just go to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com and subscribe to that. Look through our 2 episodes we have up on the Tartarian world unity. You're going to know exactly what we're talking about. It didn't dawn on me until much later when I looked into that. That's exactly the exact story. It was just corrupted and refined down into a religion after a while. But since the Tartarians had come much before, but you know what I'm trying to say. Those 2 things, some archaic laws that got mutated and then have to be audited and reset back to a more standard baseline, and also history. Some of that got corrupted about the line of the Buddhas, like what I was saying before, but it came from a legitimate set of history that got diluted over a period of time, which turned into a set of beliefs. But then even the good stuff from those beliefs, like I said, would get thrown out, the baby out with the bathwater, when they see something like what the Dalai Lama did, or whether it's a controlled set of actions, whether it's a false flag, mini false flag, whatever the hell you want to call it. Irrelevant. It is the fact that it took place. People saw this, and some people might be more forgiving because it is supposed to be one of the most peaceful people on the planet. They're like, okay, this must be part of some ritual. No, this is evil control somewhere. This is something trying to get you more accepting of a particular type of behaviors against children primarily, whether it's either from the satanic trans cult garbage trying to harm children, or this with the Dalai Lama, they're trying to get you used to these ideals. And before somebody tries to bigotize me online, just know I've divided up these different areas. Good stuff here, bad, unacceptable stuff over here.
And most decent people who are of that lifestyle don't want children abused either.
Yeah.
So let's get this straight. Most people that may not be heterosexual, whatever they are, and they're good and they're decent, no one would have said anything about them because they're good and decent. It is all about the content of your character. It really is. What is your intention and that context in that character? Most people, no matter what their preferences or how they identify, good, decent people just want to go out there and live their lives and just be able to do it, not in a flamboyant way. So again, those people that want to be like that, this is them, because now they're even afraid. So again, most decent people across the spectrum of all of it, okay, don't want this exploitation and this mind warping that is going on.
And there's even body doubles that people put out there that do this kind of stuff and false flag attempts. You saw this in a series that was about CIA manipulation, that they did stuff like this too, where they would try to manipulate or defame certain cultures and belief systems as well. This was I cannot remember the name of it. I believe it's called The Agency, as I believe it was called. And this was shown that they loved some of the stage crafting they did in the background. They even replaced a world leader this is a bit of disclosure on this, folks. In that show, they had somebody that was similar to the Dalai Lama. They wanted to defame this person. They sat around going, okay, how do we defame this guy before he gets really world foothold here? Well, okay, let's shoot a porno movie that he's in with some children. We'll just get some actors in here, and we found a guy that looks exactly like him, and from certain angles he looks exactly like him. And if we blur the video a little bit, nobody's going to know. And you saw the whole process behind the scenes. I believe there's something like that going on. Again, irrelevant. It's because it's shaking up people's beliefs that are actually long held, and they're wanting things to be true when not be true when obviously something took place, acted or not.
So again, I know some of this content that we've talked about may be hard. The first part of it, pretty much everyone should be able to get. The first contact about how good people's minds are warped and the agendas to move it through. You may not be comfortable with the conversation of the body or body snatching or possession or whatever. I'm I'm not trying to cram that discussion down your throat. The goal is that you open your mind. Most people know the first part of this is true. What we're saying is that it may even be more than what you're currently aware of, but it is there and it is present. And what is its agenda and how is it slowly done? And it's always will start with a kernel of real truth that people recognize as truth, and then let the manipulation begin, which again is happening in almost every arena of everybody's lives these days, you know, be it education, be it again in the area of just personal identity, in the area of all of a sudden you don't have to. We always thought it was real science that a child's brain or a person's brain didn't mature until at least 25. Now that's out the window. You know exactly who you are by the age of 5 now, or 3 in some cases, right? It's ridiculous. And so these agendas and all of these different areas are being done, and they're all being done also at the same time to cause as much chaos out there, again, to get good people to do and think nothing, to allow these things through. This is how it's done. It's very rampant. There are people that are recognizing this and catching it on. There definitely are great people that are championing, and they're staying in their lane, championing either a school issue, championing either one issue over here or one issue over here, which is great, because if you try to divide yourself, there's so much going on, and you're trying to divide yourself within it all, you don't seem to be very effective. But if you can stay in a lane and champion yourself to work in an area, okay, then you tend more to get somewhere. And you shouldn't be afraid to have some of these conversations if the moment should arise amongst a group, because you'll find that most people agree exactly like you do. But that division, to try and cause division and make you afraid to have conversations, is what part of the goal is. Again, the virtue signaling and different things that are going on out there. It's horrible. The bottom line is, again, what is the type of world do you want to live in? And you want your children to live in? What does it look like? Is this where it's going, what you want? I hope many of you will say no, and then actively put forth those energies to reject what is going on. I don't know if we're just talking about this, or if anybody else is wanting to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I've been looking the whole time. We had some incidences happen before this recording started, so beginning to doubt if anybody's actually going to talk. Earlier today I saw some benevolence around here, but trying to cut through the interference here. Not sure if you can pick up on anybody that's benevolent that's around, but I usually try. Not only do I go off site, I go off feeling. So
Well, I was just hoping if it were going to be anyone, it would be soul family members.
yeah, that's that's who I'm actually focusing on. I hear somebody yelling in the background here trying to get my attention, but I let me see here. Hmm. 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 I'm picking up on somebody, but I'm having a hard time getting a read on them. It may seem calm outside. It's actually quite nice out. It's very calm and serene outside, but there is a bit of a ringing in the air here. So, give me a minute. There's an energy building. I know there's been a conduit building all day that usually tells me that there was going to be a show of some kind that was going to come about at some point in the day. Give me a moment. If there's too big of a space in here, it can always be brought down, edited down, but your benevolence only, please. I need to see you, please. I know there's a presence. Please identify. If you could identify yourself, that would be great. True benevolence with no conflicting agendas, please. Are you a member of Soul Family? Hmm. You're going to have to prove that, please. I don't want this to just be more V2K garbage. Oh. No, I didn't say enter. I said you need to prove it. Can I see your face, please? Show yourself to her too, please. Might as well get double confirmation. No, she's not doing the channeling, whoever you are. Hmm. Actually, this is an I don't know. So, somebody claiming to be your brother, but I'm not buying it. Uh,
I think this section you should edit out and let us just talk right now.
okay. All right.
No, you're no announcement. You're just gonna edit this out.
Hmm.
Basically, I'm sorry, I didn't feel my go around. So there were a couple of, let's just say, soul family that maybe I thought would want to talk about this if they were in that tone. One of them was Jenny.
Yeah, one of them was her brotherly Michael, but
No, this is being edited out, so don't talk to the camera.
okay.
So, all of this is being edited out. So, this is me talking to you. One of them was Jenny. And then one of them, I was wondering down past my line. Do you remember when I was having that massage and Mom was trying to hook in, and we told and Melissa was at the house, and we said don't connect to her, and then that person down my line, more elementalish, came in and totally demolished her.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually kind of who I was wondering also would come in. Some family former coming down the line who had a good perspective that I thought was not of a conflicting agenda.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I did not feel anything related to Michael, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever it was came from that direction. But okay. True benevolence only, please. Well, I would prefer not to have to go through this type of repetitive invocation for things. When there's a conduit opening, I need the presence of the true benevolence only, please, with no conflicting agendas. I can feel a good energy, but when there is a conduit opening, I require a presence of someone under those parameters. At this point, I'm not really caring who it is. Just Isaac, I don't think so. Not today.
Isn't this kind of proving my point from earlier? I mean, in some of our discussion about really who was really there.
Let's see. All right. Benevolent soul family and benevolent beings with no conflicting agendas, be they galactic or elemental. I got a whiff of something here. Let's see. Come on. Bring it through. Your benevolent spirit. Your benevolent source creator, please protect the integrity of the information in this channel, please, at this moment in time, but across time space for appropriate for every soul on one session. All right. there's this creepy silence. It's like,
Right? That's my point.
oh, hang on. Well, I just got this weird jolt, but what? Okay. We got to know why here. Let's
You get my point now, the chirp. Chirp, chirp, chirp. No one's there when you hear the crickets.
it could be the fact that my receiver is getting blocked somewhere as well.
I
So,
think it is what it is.
okay. One last time, please. True benevolence with no conflicting agendas. I'm not minding who it is. Isaac? Not right now. I do mind as earlier, but no offense, someone else. Whoever is blocking that, Isaac, then you can unblock this so that we can get other members of Soul Family, please.
They shouldn't be able to block them, I thought. This is my, my whole thing. Again, this is being edited out. You're not going to put this
No,
out.
none of this is going
But I
on.
mean, isn't this part of the whole thing, whole conversation? Really? Who are we really dealing with?
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
They're certainly not helping to make me now unquestion that.
All right. All right. All right. Okay, this is not cool here. Come on. We're sitting down for this conversation. I need somebody. Isaac, put your hand down. Don't block anybody. Put your hand down.
Well, you can talk, but we're gonna edit you out. You're not gonna be part of this, but I do wanna know. This is a part of the yield? Our conversation is going over the lines of the yield? Is this what this is about?
No.
Then what is it about? Truly. Answer honestly.
I didn't want crickets, Isaac. We want an answer.
You know?
I realize it's the topics and we were supposed to stay away from political speak. I understand
This
that.
isn't a political speak. This isn't political, Isaac. There was nothing truly political. I didn't bring anything in political, did I?
I did a little bit.
He did a little, but really not much. This isn't a political conversation. We were asked to steer away from that. Okay, this isn't political. This is how it's done.
He agrees with you.
Yeah, so why? Why? Because this is probably one of the most egregious things we could do, but you're saying it's not a part of the yield, then what is it? Because I thought it was only when we brokered conversations that were a part of the yield that we were in trouble. But are we in bigger trouble with this one?
Hang on. Who's here, please? Who's here? There we go. All right. Is this Valiant Thor? Uh-huh. Hold on.
Who is Thor and why is he so valiant?
He just went, ta-da! All right. Oh, okay, this is you then. Okay. Isaac, why are you blocking him? Yeah, you're not gonna say, are you? All right, let's see.
Were you being blocked by Isaac or others?
To an extent.
Really?
To an extent.
Really? So who are we supposed to believe is for our highest good right now?
He'll explain. Hang on. Limited time. Yeah, he will. he will come back also for our other discussion as well, which this can branch into that one. But let's see. Oh, wow. All right. Okay, I'll make a cut point here. Edit. All right. Well, we did manage to get someone. So, this is very brief. I can feel you. So, this is Valiant Thor. And we don't need to go into the non-displayed discussion at all here, but just know that he has cut through whatever this funk is that we got smeared with prior to this recording. So this is also going to branch into a recording that we're going to do for GIC about some of the Venusian agenda. And there's only one point you want to make. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Blood pressure going down. There we go. All right. Who's all with you? You have security with you. Okay. You have some security guards with you.
Let's just do the discussion. You can talk about what you saw after.
I'll do that afterwards. Yeah. And your wife's with you too. Okay. Through the crystal, if you don't mind, please. Oh wow. The crystal. You're well aware of my procedures, fine. Yes. I must be brief, since this is also for a public venue or for general public consumption. This is building towards, and this discussion is building towards a slow drip in its purest form, you would say. Little pun on something you read earlier. But this, I will not add context, that is for you to decide. But this discussion on some of these slow drips that the enemy has put in, this is very fascinating to me. And this is something that we do in our line of work. We are in the background and we weed out these belief systems that hamper unity, either in your business, academics, religion, or politics. We also do this for your Martian Germans as well, attempting to weed out their separatist mindsets. With the beginning and the seeds that you saw in that post, with the seeds that were planted of trying to divide one within oneself, or as he says, lobotomize critical thinking in some respects. This is exactly what is going on. It's a war of ideologies, a war of, he would call it the shifting of the cuffs war, but at the same time, we are around to make sure that the finite nature of the yield is displayed as well. We do not agree with it. I will do better if you ask questions.
I wasn't expecting that because I thought you were going to do it quick. So give me 1 second. In general, I think it is a very difficult concept for most people to even accept the fact that this dynamic exists. You know, I think it's been very hard placed, although I do believe
that it's been in everyone's face so much in so many different arenas, all at one time, intentionally at one time, to again phase. And again, good people do nothing because they're too busy checking themselves, right? Instead of realizing it really is playing out
It is not
exactly.
always them. It is sometimes, well, in a lot of cases, the outside source, of course, doing your shadow work and auditing, very good thing. But in this case, you are 100% correct.
Right. And so it's a hard concept to even want to believe, because in that aspect, some of our first responses would be, again, as Chris would say, reverting back to an old way, trying to appease a god or appease a wrong, or appease something that, again, you're taking on is your crap that isn't your crap to begin with, because there was nothing wrong with you to begin with.
Yes.
And so these types of psychological warfares, exist with decent people. And again, when we talk about, as you did, the word unity, it does not mean we become unified as a one mindset, which is what actually is trying to be done to you. What it means is that we are all individuals respecting our differences, again, within a society with basic societal accepted norms. And they're even trying to rip apart basic societal norms of a basic decency of how people are treated, or children should be protected, or anything like that going on. That it's all under, let's just say the word attack, in this ideology that is going on. So it's hard to have one question. I think, again, my biggest one probably would be, I know you agree, but what can we say to help people understand that this is something that knowledge, don't be afraid of it, and that you can move past it and do something and have more control in your life?
Remember this, there is an example of some of the things they're trying to do. This was in your Schneider Cut Justice League, where the AI tries to convince Cyborg that he is a broken man because he has become part machine, or broken in soul. And then he's like, no, I'm not broken. I am this, takes control of his own power. This is one of the things that's happening right now. They're trying to convince you need fixing. If somebody tries to say enough that you need fixing, you will be convinced that you have something broken. This is not a strange projection type of thing. It is, of course, them trying to project their brokenness, but at the same time, it is a divide and conquer within tactic. You are already whole. You are not broken. You are not. You may be beaten a little, but you are not shattered. You are already, as you would say, rising from the ashes of the old wars. They're trying to regurgitate that trauma and pain, as you would say, on a wash, rinse, and repeat cycle. They want to convince you that you are broken, a broken people. This is a tactic from the outside to try to get you to do, say, shadow work that may not need to get done. This is a misnomer, and I've talked to him in private a little bit about this. Yes, it is very admirable that both of you, any of you listening, are doing internal shadow work. That is awesome. It is not for every moment of every day, of every year, for as long as you live. You see, yes, is your work only done sometimes when you leave this world? Yes, Spirit is correct on this. But from my perspective, it is not for every moment. It is not forever and ever until your sun burns out. This is not what was intended. They want you to think something is broke and unending. No, you can complete things here. There are missions, of course, the reasons why you are doing things that only end when you leave this world. So past people were not wrong when they said this. This is not for all things. Some things do complete. They want you to feel, and I will reiterate this again, they want you to feel that you always have something broken that needs fixing from within all the time. How is something to be fixed if it is never in a state of completion? How are you to keep moving forward? if you are constantly being told that you are broken. This is a major misnomer that is out there right now. You want to break glass ceilings? Here you are. And it was also pardon, that was, let's just say, yelling in the background because to tell yourselves some of the political speak, as his grandfather said in a previous episode, is actually becoming a bed of glass shards to walk over, hot coals to walk over at the moment. Will not be long. So it was me that was doing this yelling in the background. But now that we are here together, I can say you are not broken. Anybody online that says you constantly have to do the inner work is incorrect. It is for the times that it is needed. Needed. The word is needed. If you don't do what is needed, of course, you open yourself up for more beating, battering, and being taken over, being messed with, manipulated, etc., etc. But if you're not broken, what needs fixing? Not every single thing on the planet Earth is in shambles. You see, not everything is domed, not everything is capped, not everything is a prison, not everything is evil. When you understand this, you'll understand a lot more than you did before. Yes, there is oppression, but it is getting the limelight. Are there seeds of division like what you were reading? Yes, that is evil. Not everything, every feeling within you needs to be extricated like it's a cancer. The seeds of indoctrination. Those are the true cancer. And before people peg me as indoctrinating with slow drip, I could understand that argument. Just know we're trying to weed out and weed that garden. We're not gardeners, so again, don't. Somebody will probably make a joke about this. We're trying to weed out some of those things. I could not talk about some of these things before, and may have even fibbed a little on some things to keep protection matters in place for yourselves. But we are now at a time in this speech that more of this can be said. I will welcome the conversation on the true Venusian agenda, and also why I'm so valiant.
Who is Thor and why is he so valiant?
Yes, you can thank your father for that statement. I found it funny. My wife found it even funnier. So, and to make clear that he was correct, it is a ranking. The Thor or Tor ranking did come from Asgard originally, and it means essentially like a captain or something such. It doesn't translate completely well. Leader, and of course the word valiant, you know what that means. That, of course, the Venusian colonies adapted amalgam beliefs, not belief systems, but different techniques from the old and ancient periods. That I will give you for the show. So if you wonder who Thor is and why he's so valiant, this is why.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not going to take up much of your time because I know this has actually been a very this has been a difficult one to bring out because I feel it's so fundamental. It's truly fundamental to everyone's understanding in order for us to get out of the quagmire, in order for us to really take control. These concepts need to really be understood. And again, no judgment to yourself, no judgment to anybody. It's something you didn't know existed and how good they are at doing it. So what the goal is that you take out of this conversation some things to truly think about, to say, is this a possibility? And most of you in your heart actually already know the answer is yes, But I'm here and others are here both basically to say, Yes, you don't need to think too hard. It really is what you think it is. And so the difference, being, well, what do we do about it? Well, you engage in your heart, mind, soul, and energy into the world you want to be, not accept what others are trying to basically thrust upon you. And so you have to stand up verbally, mentally, energetically, if you can do nothing else. You must do these things and understand so that, again, we can stop some of this. And then we will have to go back and redo some things that have been done in order to change certain things back from where they are. And yes, that can be done. So I leave things, but the awareness has to come first. So I leave this just open to you for anything you wish to speak of.
Many people, have known that I do things my way. You must do things your way, but only yours. As individuals, yes, as a unity, like how the Tartarian world unity is, but as your own individual, as he likes to say, grounded I am presences, where you take the better parts of your oversoul, the better parts of the avatar, and ground them here, as he likes to say. Little bit long-winded for my liking, even though it's planned out. Long-winded in the background, you have to be direct. So I will leave it direct and say, do it your way. And no, Isaac, not like Burger King. That was really stupid, by the way. I made fun of him a moment ago. Tough crowd today. But we'll do it your way, not just because other beings tell you to. Not even if I tell you to. Thank you. Oh. Man, that was a quick rip loose. Okay. Yeah, just for people's information, yeah, we are going to do an episode on the Venusian agenda, even though we did do a GIC quite a while ago on the Venusian agenda and other elements of the Venusian agenda. It needs reclarification. At the Stranger at the Pentagon story needs some reclarification. So we will leave that here unless you have something else to add, like an affirmation of blessing. But other than that,
Yeah.
no.
So we hope, again, our goal is always just to provide you something to think about, to be able to see the world around you better and to understand it, and to understand, again, the goal is to build yourself up, to know who you really are, and then be able to grow within it to make the world a place that you wish it to be. And so with that, we send out heartfelt, hope that you are, in fact, healing from traumas of the past, that you are, in fact, seeing without fear the world around you, because, again, this is part of what we are all here for, to rise us up, to lift ourselves up out of this, not be saved, but to do it and lift ourselves up out of this with the understanding of what really is happening around us and with the skills to be able to do it. So we wish you joy and happiness, and try to take some time to just look at the spring flowers and appreciate, the earth around you, and know that really, for the most part, you are okay. You are okay, but that many things are telling you you're not, when it's just not true. So, we wish you great peace.
Yes, and for the record, Isaac, the phrase for Burger King was "Have it your way, you moron." So that's not do it my way. That's Valiant Thor. So we'll leave it on the funny note there. Yeah, he tried a stupid pun, it didn't work. But Valiant Thor is a tough crowd to crack that nut. But okay. Hopefully you enjoyed this. This was a rough episode for myself because of a lot of the interference that was present. But we hope you enjoyed this and got a lot out of this. So thank you. Bye-bye now.